Hello friends, it's Kayla. Welcome back to my channel. This is the third of 4 quarterly updates for the year of 2022, where I talk about all of the books that I read, the numbers, all of the statistics, the videos that I read them for, and then I talk about some of my favorites. It usually ends up being around 5, but I'm not stuck with that number. Like if there were 7 incredible ones I want to mention, I'll do that. If there was only 4 deserving of that top spot, then I'll only do 4. Anyway, grabbing my handy dandy notebook, it's going to give me all the numbers I need. I read 76 books in the last 3 months. They're mostly right there. I read like 15 library books. 6 books were sent to me, and then the rest I already owned or purchased like in that quarter. And I think 5 of those 15 library books I couldn't re-reserve, so they're not represented here, but 76 is my number. So in July I read 26, in August I read 28, and in September I read 22. That's how it's all organized. I think if I went by page number, they're probably pretty all pretty equal, but that's the stats. I think that brings me to 195 books that I've read this year. Never cracked 200. Gonna crack 200. As far as ratings, the number 1 slice of pie is 4 stars. Quite a few 4 stars. And then it was almost identical with my 5 stars, 3 stars, and 2 stars. So yeah, more 2 stars than probably ever. But there were a lot of 5s. So that's promising. And I feel like every reading vlog almost that I put out in this quarter, there was at least 1 5-star. So that was exciting. And then age ranges, like, oh, and there were 5 books that I didn't rate at all. I read a couple middle grades, a handful of YA, and 70 adult novels. For genres, my very top ones were mystery and horror, which are tied. I read so many mystery books because I did mystery specific vlogs. And then after that, it's just like general fiction, followed by thriller, sci-fi, anthologies, nonfiction. I might have missed something, but I think that's it. Now I'm gonna go through all of the videos. Have you watched them all? Can I compel you to go check them out? So the video that I read the most amount of books for was my rabbit vlog. I read, was it 18 I think total, but I'm counting 16 because 2 of them were like very tiny children's books that I'm just not counting towards my Goodreads goal or anything. And the standouts from this video, the ones that I gave the highest rating, none of them were 5 stars, which was absolutely devastating because the point of the video was to read some of my favorite books ever, because rabbit books always get 5 stars, but apparently no, they don't. Standouts were What Moves the Dead by T. Kingfisher at 4 stars, and then also The Children's Bible by Lydia Millett, which I gave 4.5, and then another 4-star was After the Flood by Cassandra Montag, and then the rest were just okay. Next stack is the most amount of books I read for, it was a video series, so it's not just one video, but I read 14 or 15 books, there might be something missing here, for, what was it called? Summerween, which is a readathon in summer inspired by Halloween, just like it sounds. And I did a video where I read the first chapter of everything I was considering reading, and then a couple vlogs where I actually read some things. And then I did a bonus vlog where I read some of like other people's favorites for Summerween. And the standouts from this stack include The Pallbearers Club by Paul Tremblay, You've Lost a Lot of Blood by Eric LaRocca, So Happy for You by Celia Lasky, and Slewfoot by Brahm. I did also though read quite a few 4 stars in those vlogs, and the rest were just okay or bad, I don't know. Then across 2 different light and cozy mystery vlogs, I read 11 books, and I had 1 5-star from each video. So Magic Lies and Deadly Pies by Misha Pop, and Jamila Green Ruins Everything by Zarka Nuwaz. And then a good amount of these were still 4 stars, enough that I'm continuing in my cozy mystery era. I read 7 books in this video where it was all about books that had been mentioned in live shows for the Literally Dead Book Club, co-host things that they mentioned and they recommended. None of these were technically 5 stars, but The Cutting Season by Attica Locke is very close, so we'll just count it, why not? I read 6 books in this video where it was all inspired by TikTok, various like filters and mentions, recommendations that I got all from the TikTok, the book talk community. My favorite from here, I guess favorites plural, would be Luster by Raven Lalani, Reckless Girls by Rachel Hawkins, and The Hacienda by Isabel Cañas, though they were all 4 stars. So TikTok didn't win big, but what did was when I completed my own readathon. I have a year-long readathon called the Buzzwordathon, where every month you like find a book that fits the title buzzword. It was really fun building my TBR because I had to go through all of the challenges and see if I had met them yet, because I didn't know, and I had completed all of them except for the one that was book inspired. So I read a whole TBR of books with book, novel, story in the title. The 5 stars from this TBR were Notes on an Execution by Danya Kakafka, Erotic Stories for Punjabi Widows by Bali Kaur Jaswal, and The Book of the Most Precious Substance by Sarah Gran. And then I had about 17 books that I didn't read or include in any vlogs. I just read them on my own in between videos and structured TBRs. I had 2, well, technically, like, I had 3 book club books in these 3 months, the Literally Dead book club. We read a thriller, mystery, or horror book every month, and in July it was The House Across the Lake by Riley Sager, which was a 4.5. In August it was What Moves the Dead by T. Kingfisher, but I also included this obviously in the Rabbit vlog, 4 stars. And then September was The It Girl by Ruth Ware, which I gave 4. And then all the other things I just read for nothing but my own enjoyment. And there are some standouts from this stack, so that's exciting. Uncertain Kin by Janice Lynn Mather was 5 stars. Same with Our Wives Under the Sea by Julia Armfield. And then Kindred by Octavia Butler, and Circe by Madeline Miller, though I also had a good chunk of 4 stars. All right, we've talked about the numbers, we've talked about the videos, now let's get on to the favorites. So these are in no particular order, but they're ones that I could see potentially making it in my top 10 of the year. That's how I'm deciding my favorites. I don't know. This one's gonna be the least surprising because I've said multiple times this is currently my 2nd favorite book of the entire year. It remains true. I've read 70 more books since this, but it's still there right after the 5th season, and it's The Pallbearers Club by Paul Tremblay. This is about some just really unlikable, pretentious teenagers and them getting involved in this pallbearers club, involved in funerals in high school. And it is a story of their friendship, but it's told as a memoir. So it's written from the perspective of Art Barbara, and he's just telling us all of his experiences in high school. It's a very slow moving book, but this is just very much my kind of story, as his best friend Mercy is annotating the book as she's reading it, giving her perspective, crossing out certain things, because his perception of her is that she is like a paranormal creature, and he tells his memoir as if that is true. And she naturally, as just a normal human person, is like, what are you talking about? Why are you telling these stories? Why are you putting my most vulnerable moments into your memoir and speaking like this? Like, you don't talk like this. Our conversation didn't happen like that. And it's her challenging a lot of his memoir, and it transitions into their adult experience because that's when she is getting her hands on the memoir. And so more things have transpired since their high school friendship, and I just adored both of these characters. I don't think by any means when I say this is a beautiful friendship story that their friendship is perfect, that everything that goes on in here like is right and fair. I just think that the ending especially had such an impact for me. There's so much interpreting that you get to do as a reader that is just so much fun. So that is my #1 spot for this quarter. Next up, definitely Jamila Green, Ruins Everything by Zarka Nuaz, because this is such an interesting, like, smart and funny satirical novel. I don't laugh a lot. I've talked about before, like, I'm not known for having a good sense of humor in books, especially in books that I feel like are trying to be funny. I'm always like, okay, like, I'm just not there. But this one just integrated all of these super serious topics. As far as, I just filmed my wrap up, so I know I'm repeating myself, but there's Islamophobia in here. There are terrorist organizations. There's full descriptions of like the US's relationship with other countries, various other countries, the impact that they've had, the Muslim experience itself in North America. I think this author's taking a lot of her personal experiences and things that she's seen in her life and wanted to have a lot of conversations, but is doing it in a tongue-in-cheek kind of way, where we have this ridiculous main character who just published a memoir and it's not getting the attention that she thinks it deserves. And meanwhile, she has a woman she went to high school with whose memoir is more successful than hers, though she finds it very harmful and stereotyping to her own community. And she wants herself to get the attention that other people are getting, especially white authors that she's seeing. So she wants to like make this deal with God. She goes to her local mosque for some advice, and she needs to complete this good deed, and it leads into this chain of events where there's then kidnapping and interrogation and faking her way into various extremist organizations to accomplish certain goals that come along the way. At one point, she's being tasked to murder somebody. It is completely unrealistic and over the top and ridiculous, as satire is, and I just thought it was so incredibly smart. Next up, I think I need to feature Kindred, because Kindred is such an excellent book, and like I know that everybody already knows that. So we're following a woman named Dana in the 70s, and she is married to a man, and she randomly time travels to antebellum Maryland. Basically, her ability to time travel isn't in her own power. It's because of an ancestor that she has. She has no control over it. She has no idea when it's gonna happen, which makes it such an interesting book to follow, because you never know what's gonna happen. And it's just such an interesting conversation about, I mean, so many things, but her having to interact with these terrible people from the past, like kidnapping, enslaving people who are also obviously her ancestors. She wants to help change these people and affect the time period, but she doesn't know how much impact she can have or she should have, because if she helps this young boy who she knows grows up to own this plantation, if she changes things too much, she may never be born. Naturally, time traveling and witnessing the horrific acts that are going on and that are even being enacted upon her. It's a super difficult survival story, but it's also a beautiful like family tale. And every time she comes back, she is physically changed, and her husband is there to help her get through it, immediately believes her. She wants to see if she can perhaps bring him with her. What happens when she tries to control her comings and goings, who it all impacts, why it's all happening, and she gets to know all of these family members and really see what happened. It's so incredibly hard to read, but beautiful to read, and important topics are addressed, and I just think this is so excellent. Which is a very strange transition to the next one, because it's about a book about sex magic, so bear with me. We're following a woman named Lily, who is a rare book dealer, and this novel very much features pretentious, elitist characters, the ones in society who have the most money and the most power, and are just so corrupted by that power and are so obsessed with getting everything that they want, assuming they can have everything that they want, that there are these couple books that people constantly talk about and constantly want, but no one's ever really seen it. And it's this book of sex magic that if you complete the tasks, you get more power. No one really knows what happens, but Lily is tasked with finding it and picking the person she wants to sell it to. She's going to be rich. But there's also a lot of her own just personal story in here of her and her husband. Her husband's been through some trauma, and perhaps the magic can help him. But therefore, she also needs to engage in these sexual acts with someone else, and she gets so just obsessed and enamored with completing these tasks. There is a lot of sex in these pages, and it's often very uncomfortable, but just the journey of her working with these people, meeting up with various people who are threatening her, who are offering her incredible things, it's just such a fun story to be along the ride for. And it's also like very funny at times, discoveries that they make and the ways that they succeed at giving their offerings to this book. I absolutely loved the character voice. I love this perspective. I feel like a lot of the books that I love so much come from a very assertive woman, a very dynamic woman. And so those are the 4 books that I wanted to mention and kind of recommend, some of them more broadly than others for sure. And I know that there are a lot of books in this stack of 4.5 to 5 stars. There's a couple especially that I'm sure you maybe expected to be here. But to me, these are all fantastic books that I would almost put all at like the same level. We've got a book about a crime, an apocalyptic book about children and survival, a horror book about virtual reality and humanity, a story about a woman running a creative writing workshop. We see the goddess Circe here, 2 women connecting after a deep sea mission, a collection of stories about women living in the Bahamas, the dangerous friendship between 2 women, a revenge mission based on murderous pies, a man on death row and all of the women who've been impacted by him, and then an evil creature in the woods, and a love story. These were all great 5-star books for me, and these just happened to be the excellent ones. So thank you so much for watching. I can't wait to see what I read in the last quarter of the year. I hope that there are more wins. Every time I feel like I have found the best books of the year and my official top 10, I continually pick up things that knock the other ones off the list, and that's just so great. I feel like I'm having a really fantastic reading year, even though obviously my ratings have been all over the place. Unlike other years, I just feel like every quarter there are things that are so fantastic that I just can't stop gushing about, and I hope the same is true for you in your reading. So I'd love to hear if you've had any favorites from the last quarter you want to share with me or with everybody. Recommendations in the comments are always so fun, and I'll see you later. Bye!